Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to the March 24th Oklahoma City Planning Commission meeting and ask if you have cell phones or pagers, if you would silence those right now for us. I'd appreciate it. If you are not the applicant and you've come to talk to us today, there are sign-up sheets. They look like this. They're on the table right outside the chambers. And if you'd complete that, we'd be happy to hear you. And with that, approval of the March 10th minutes. Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Commissioners, cast your votes, and the minutes are approved. Continuance requests?
We have two uncontested requests for continuance. Item 13, which is PUD 1435, and item 14, ABC 736, request to continue both of these until April the 14th.
Is there anyone who wanted to address us today about items 13 or 14 on our agenda?
Move the uncontested continuance.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the uncontested continuances. Cast your votes, and that's approved.
We have one new request for continuance. Item 6 is SP 430, a request to continue until April the 28th.
And same question, is there anyone who wanted to address us about item 6 on the agenda today?
Move the continuance.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue item 6. Cast your votes. Any requests for additional continuances from anyone who's here? Okay.
On items requiring separate vote, item 1 is C6267, preliminary plat of Kings Ridge Lake Estates in Ward 1.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Mark Ritchie. I'm with Civil Design and Survey of Oklahoma at 7528 Northwest 132nd Street. I'm here representing a new client of mine, Ellison Investments, that is proposing the 102-lot, large lot subdivision that's on the screen above you there. And pleased to say that we've met with staff and we're able to agree to all of the TEs. I believe there may be one additional TE that wasn't in the report, but that was a result of a meeting we had with Dennis Clowers and some of the other public works officials regarding my developer cooperating with some other developments in the area to readdress and study the traffic issues in the region and to see what is needed prior to final platting on any future final plats, including ours.
I think that got in here. Isn't that TE?
Well, the traffic TE is in here. There's
They got it in? Okay.
I think
There's one on drainage that we'll talk about in a minute.
Okay, the drainage issue, is that the one that didn't get into the report?
Right.
Correct.
Okay, that one, it covers us getting a drainage easement from the landowner to the north. We've met with him and talked to him. He is agreeable to that. What it will be is a 60-foot, see if I can get the pointer to work here. There we go. 60-foot north-south and 1,000-foot east-west drainage easement that my developer will be responsible for maintaining until which time this land to the north develops, and at that time it will be incorporated into a drainage system meeting the city's ordinances, drainage ordinance. The reason we're wanting to do that is to alleviate some drainage issues along the western side of our development and north of us, where the city of Yukon allowed some storm sewer systems to be built that don't properly discharge even in dry weather. They stand full of water, and by putting the drainage easement in and grading a drainage ditch that we've met with Dennis Clowers and Adir Agrawal about, it will act as an interim solution to solve that drainage problem and concentrate the flow into where we want it to cross under our street through a culvert, until which time the land to the north is properly developed and a system is put in place to handle that permanently.
Okay.
So with that, I'll ask for favorable votes from the commission and make myself available for questions.
We do have someone signed up to talk to us, so we'll take that comment and then back to you, Mark. Keith Cummings.
Yes, Yes, I'm Keith Cummings, and I definitely thank you for your time and allowing me to
Give
speak.
us your address as well, please, for the record.
I'm sorry?
Your address for the record.
Oh, yes, Keith Cummings, thank you, 1320 Kingsway Court in Yukon.
You did hear Mr. Ritchie address drainage to some extent. I see that's part of your concern.
Yes, that is my sole concern, actually a grave concern, if you want to put it appropriately. We live on the northwest corner of the addition. On that diagram, it's the bottom corner of Kingsway and Regal, where they meet. It's the southern end of the Kingsway addition, where all the drainage is funneling down to that one sole point. And below us is the Kings Ridge addition, and that all the drainage is funneling up into that one sole point right behind our house. And obviously, our grave concern is strictly drainage. And I did speak with Mr. Ritchie just immediately prior to this session to speak with our concerns and what is being planned for drainage, where all the water is going to go, because as it sits right now, there's like literally no room for rain, as we have been experienced in the past. And so that is our sole concern, and we wanted to get on the record that we're concerned about drainage, because right now there's no place for the water to go.
Did your conversation with Mr. Ritchie give you some comfort that they're trying to solve the same issue that you're concerned with?
It did. I definitely would, need to, obviously we just spoke just a little bit, and now I had very little time to process what he said, but what he did say did make me feel a little bit better about what they're going to do, both permanent-wise, but yet also planning for the future and where the water is going to go. So that there are a lot of things that he did say that did make me, as a concerned citizen, happy with where it's going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions of Mr. Ritchie? Mike?
No, none. If there's nobody else to speak, I will move approval of item number 1, subject to the additional TE with respect of the drainage easement.
So TE, we'll make it TE 11 as has been presented to us by the staff?
Right.
And
Right.
Does everyone have a copy? Okay.
Maybe it's right here. You might read that, John.
Well, let me read it so that the rest of you are aware.
Right.
The off-site drainage channel to the north of this plat must be placed in a private drainage easement with a commitment from the property owner or the homeowners association for its maintenance. These conditions and requirements will require final approval by Public Works Drainage Section prior to the release of the final plat. So that's now TE 11.
Mr. Chairman, I believe we also have a
Exactly.
variance on...
We do.
TE2.
Yeah, we have a variance to TE 2.
I'll move the variance first.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the variance to TE 2. Cast your votes. That's
Now
approved.
I will move the application with the addition of TE number 11 as read.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 1, including TE 11. Cast your votes. And that's approved. Thank you.
Item 2 is SPUD 605, an application by Chris Kratz to rezone 301 Northwest 61st Street from R1 Single Family to SPUD 605 in Ward 2.
Is the applicant here? If you'd give us your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Chris Krotz, 3121 Northwest 163rd Court, Edmond, Oklahoma 73013.
I have just one thought as I looked at the application where we discuss signs. The language says all freestanding signs within this SPUD, and I like it to say one freestanding sign. You've got a small site, and I don't see room for 2 signs, but I'd like to limit it to 1.
One sign? Yeah, that's fine.
Mr. Chairman, there actually are a couple of other things. I've met with the applicant, and we went over this proposal at some length and sort of tailored it to the needs that they have for the site. I think it's going to be a wonderful addition to the area. But when we met and talked, we had agreed, I believe, that there would be no electronic message display signage, and that there would be just a single monument sign, and although it has sort of the standard language in here, 8 feet high and 100 feet square, it also refers to the rendering that's attached, which is by no means 8 feet high. So I wondered if we might go ahead and remove the language about electronic message displays, or simply replace it with a statement that there will be none at this site, and then perhaps tailor the size of the sign, the verbiage here to actually comply with the rendering, whatever you think that's actually going to be.
I'm okay without the electronic signage. We're not going to do any electronic signs. But I'm not sure on the height. This is just a drawing for the sign, so I'm not sure as far as the actual height. If you want to change the dimensions, I'm not sure what the sign will, actually, the height will actually be. But it will not be a pole sign or anything that's neon related.
Okay. Well, the text of the, at least my staff report, does say that the sign will be in compliance with the rendering. The rendering certainly doesn't show an 8-foot sign.
Correct.
So perhaps between now and council, you could come up with a little bit more specific idea.
Yeah, I've brought a few people to, if we have these kinds of questions, to help out.
I don't know if I'm allowed to speak here. Matthew Radcliffe with Mass Architects. We're working with him on the development of this design. So an 8-foot sign is probably way more height than what would be needed for this, so we can definitely modify that some. Again, we're just going to verify before we speak out of turn as to 2-foot or 3-foot, but yeah, we can definitely adjust that verbiage.
Okay, thank you.
So an 8-foot height limit would work because you don't plan to even approach that.
Exactly.
Correct.
Okay.
And if there's no one else who signed up to speak
No
on
one
it,
signed up.
I'll move approval.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 2. Cast your votes, and you're approved.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Item 3 is C-6275, final plat of Fieldstone, Section 3, located south of Southwest 44th Street and east of County Line Road, Ward 3.
Blaine Sheffield with Sheffield Engineering representing the applicant. Reviewed the staff report, have no problems with it whatsoever. Be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, no one has signed up.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 3. Cast your votes, and you're approved. James, are you not voting? And Buck, are you voting? It's on. We need the light then. Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Item 4 is SPUD 603, an application by Capitol Hill Baptist Church to rezone 302 Southwest 134th Street from the AA Agricultural District to SPUD 603, Ward 5.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Dennis Box on behalf of the applicant. The site plan that you see in front of you is not accurate because this is on a state highway, and it's State Highway 37, and when the church went and worked with the state in regard to curb cuts, they were told that the curb cuts were too close together. So this center curb cut that was shown on that site plan actually does not exist. There's one on either side of their property. It flows better and works better. I think it's interesting. I don't know how many of you all knew, but I didn't know until recently that this was a designated state highway from Hinton to Moore, with Sunny Lane being the end of the highway. Being a highway, obviously, we want to make sure that we've got signage that's appropriate and that it is in scale with our proposal. For those of you all that have had the opportunity to drive by and see what the Capitol Hill Baptist Church has done at this site, it's very impressive. It's a beautiful facility. The church itself sits back approximately 180 feet from the curb. And the sign that we're proposing will sit 37 feet from the curb line. So there'll be no issues in regard to traffic, but it will be within the scale that we think is appropriate for a sign that will also have an LED reader board in the middle as shown, and is in scale with the building that exists. I would say that the building probably on the low end with some of the higher areas is 30 feet to 40 feet tall. So it, in our opinion, is an appropriate location. You have, in that packet that I handed out, had an opportunity to see some of the surrounding uses, and this has developed in kind of a unique manner in that if you look at the property, you've got mini storage on one side. On the west side, you can go for a short distance and you're going to find a trailer park. You're going to find on the north side of the street, you're going to find a post office. You're going to find a postal facility with the trucks. You're going to find AT&T service. You've got residential that has a brick wall. So from our standpoint, we think the sign is very attractive. We think 20 feet is the right size. Now, there was nothing in the staff report dealing with favorable considerations, and I think there are a number of favorable considerations, including the setback from the curb, the look of the sign, the scale of the sign, the surrounding uses, the kind of density traffic that we have on this 134th Street or Highway 37. But the other question raised in the staff report dealt with the Board of Adjustment. Now, we elected to file a SPUD, and the reason we did that was because we believe that the size of the sign, the look of the sign, that's a public policy issue. When I went to the Board of Adjustment on the two signs that are on the building, I advised the Board of Adjustment that I would be applying for a zoning change to allow for a sign, but we'd be going through the zoning process for that sign. The Board of Adjustment didn't increase the square footage allowed. It's 100 square feet for the signs that are on the church itself, but they allowed us to have two instead of one. So we come before you with a staff that doesn't think we conform with your policy. And if you say that you just want a 6-foot sign, which you've said at a number of locations, that's accurate. If you drive 134th Street, you, I think, would believe that maybe a 6-foot sign is too small based on the scale of our site and how the development's gone. And we believe that this is a very attractive sign and a sign that's appropriate at this location based on scale and based on setbacks. So we're here to answer any questions, but we recognize that in the past this commission has wanted to get as many 6-foot ground signs as possible. 6, 8. I've been asked for 4-foot signs. I mean, anything under 10 feet, I think is. Oh, I don't want. If you're not negotiating, I'm not either. The sign you see is what we want. Okay.
Dennis, I'll take a counterpoint to what you said. At least 4 of us and maybe 5 of us here have been on the Board of Adjustment. This, in my view, is clearly a variance issue to zoning, and that's why the Board of Adjustment exists by statute, as I understand it. And I think that's appropriately where it ought to be heard. And I'm not getting into the merits of your sign size or design or anything else. I just don't believe it belongs here, and I don't think we ought to be setting a precedent where the Planning Commission subsumes the responsibility of the Board of Adjustment for its statutory duties. And I don't think the Planning Commission should be used for that. That's my opinion.
If I could respond, The Board of Adjustment is a creature of statute. It was created back in the 1920s when the Standard State Zoning Enabling Act was, in a broad brush, put over all the states. And Oklahoma was, at that time, one of the many states that approved it. The Board of Adjustment has three powers, as you know. You've been on the board and been the chairman for the board. You've got a variance request, you have special exceptions, and you have appeals from administrative officials. The latter two wouldn't work. So the only way you could go to the Board of Adjustment on this sign would be to say that we think that this is a variance request and we meet 4 statutory conditions. Those statutory conditions are, you must prove that there's something unique about the property, it causes a hardship, you're in conformance with the plan, and what you're asking for is the least necessary under the circumstances. Now, if you look at those 4 conditions, that really doesn't go to the heart of the issue on what I have in front of you. And that is, from a public policy standpoint, is this appropriate at this location? If you decide no, then the answer and the vote would be no. From our standpoint, this is a question that the council, and therefore the Planning Commission, should look at and decide.
I respectfully disagree, but there you are.
Well, but why did you go to the Board of Adjustment with the signs on the building?
Because we weren't asking for any increase in the square footage, and the sign was allowed. It was a unique situation in that the setback was so far from the curb, 180 feet, that it necessitated that we have 2 signs equaling 100 square feet instead of 1. So there were 4 statutory conditions in that case we could meet. Here, it comes down to a policy decision. And that's why I filed a zoning case.
I'm not sure you don't meet the hardship, but...
And I heard you and I understand what you said, but this is my question. You were already before the Board of Adjustment with the other issue. When you were there, why didn't you throw this one in the pot just for good measure?
Yeah, very, very good question, and that was August 5th of 2010, and we did not have it determined what kind of sign was going to be used or needed at that time. And the second issue is, my view was, when we dealt with a sign that was out in front of the building, not on the building, that really got to the heart of what we end up arguing here many times in cases. Therefore, it was more appropriate for a policy legislative decision.
Now, that said, confirm a couple of other things for me real quick. The message board part of this sign is how large?
It is 24 square feet. Is that right? 24 square feet.
Okay. And you're asking for level 2. Can't live with level 1.
Yeah, we would like level 2 to be able to express fully some of the things that are going on in the church in the future. We don't want
At 3 a.m.
Well, now time might be a different issue, and the pastor's here if you want to talk to him, but you know, as far as technology, as you drive up and down this street, I think level 2 on a state highway is appropriate.
Well, I appreciate it's a state highway, and it is. But I think more importantly is, regardless of designation, it is a 4-lane, main drag, heavily traveled street. I think you certainly have that in your your favor, and yes, you have the additional deal that it is state highway, at least running west. But it is a big road, big street. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I have a little, irrespective of the argument about messages, level 1, level 2, but back to your question about, does a Board of Adjustment matter? If it, and I think it is, and I disagree with you, I think it is, but do we have the authority to not hear this application if we consider it to be not in our jurisdiction? Could we move to pass this on to the Board of Adjustment? I don't think we have the power to pass it to the Board of Adjustment, but I think if we deny it, it goes to City Council with our recommendation that it's a Board of Adjustment item if we want to have that as the basis for a decision we make. So that would be like attached to whatever it is that we do? I mean...
So our decision would not be on the merits at all, but simply on the...
Well, that's up to you as commissioners.
But that's what you're suggesting.
That would be my position, but I'm one of 9. That's my view. We could begin to get a flood of SPUD applications that are designed to get around having to go to the Board of Adjustment and meet the standards for, the 4 standards for a variance. And I don't think that's the...
If I might at least say one other thing when you deal with Boards of Adjustment and variances. Keep in mind, in the 1920s, when our whole zoning enabling provisions came into play, you not only had the exact structure we have now with planning commissions and councils, but you had that Board of Adjustment. When they looked at having a Board of Adjustment and applying and having a variance, the standard example that was given and is used would be a situation where if you had a lot that had a certain setback requirement and you had a creek running through it, well, that would be a very unique situation, very peculiar, and therefore you should be able to do something different than the ordinance. Here, we don't have that situation. We have a situation where I understand what many of you like, and that is ground signs. We believe a ground sign doesn't work for this facility. And so it's really a public policy decision and therefore legislative.
I guess I have a question for us, just somewhat rhetorical and not to get too philosophical. What would the applicant show to the Board of Adjustment to meet the Board of Adjustment?
Mike, I was thinking about that.
And that's where I just want to know what the gap, what the delta is, the gap there.
And that's what I was just considering, the comment the chairman made, that he's not sure it doesn't meet the criteria. Well, the 2 terms I sat on the Board of Adjustment, I frankly believe if this came before the board when I was on it, we would have approved it. I think it probably does meet the criteria, which gives me pause in this case that I'm saying, well, from an expediency and efficiency standpoint, maybe we go ahead and hear it. I'm not sure, I don't agree with the chairman that it probably looks more like a board case than a planning commission case. But what I see before me, frankly, I believe would pass muster at the Board of Adjustment.
I don't think that the question for us is whether they can meet the requirements for variance. I mean, that's not for us to decide. And if they do, that's great for them. If they don't, that's too bad. That's not for us to decide here. And I don't think that it's a basis to usurp the duties of the Board of Adjustment to say, oh, they'd probably approve it anyway, so let's just go ahead and hear it ourselves. Therefore, if there's a question specifically about whether we want, as a policy matter, to start hearing SPUD applications for signs, then, I think that's the decision that's in front of us. If we decide that that's not a problem, and yes, we want to hear SPUD applications for signs, then let's go ahead and hear this one on its merits. But I think at least that is the question that the chairman is suggesting, that we need to decide as a matter of policy whether we want to start hearing SPUD applications for signs.
Having brought them before, I would say you don't have to recommend approval, but I submit to you, let's look at what a PUD and a SPUD is. A SPUD is a parcel that's 5 acres or less that you want to vary some regulations within the ordinance. No different than a PUD. So to say that we're usurping the Board of Adjustment's authority, I would say is inconsistent with what a SPUD is. When you file a SPUD, you don't file a SPUD unless you're wanting to limit uses or vary some regulations. And under the code, it specifically allows that, and rightfully so.
Is there only 2 items that you're really asking for, is height and the level of the message? Okay. And you just I think you just shook your head yes if we change those hours of message, and I don't remember if that was even mentioned or not, from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. Would that be a possibility?
Mark DeMoss, pastor at Capitol Hill Baptist Church. Thank you for hearing us. I would say we could limit the hours. I don't know if I would be agreeable to the exact hours. Traffic begins for business at least by 6 a.m. I'm on that road every morning, not every morning, but often at that time. So I'd want it to be a little earlier. We could probably limit what we're doing with the message board by 8 p.m. I would think. I'd still want the name of the church, perhaps, something displayed on that, but we wouldn't have to have high graphics during the off hours, the dark time hours. I think the church could be agreeable to some hour limitations.
So the only question then, if that's the case, would be the height. Is that correct?
Yeah, but see, these issues you're talking about, these are all policy issues, and the Board of Adjustment doesn't deal with it. They deal with as you know, you're on there. They deal with do you meet the peculiar nature of it? Does it cause you hardship? Are you in conformance with the plan? And is this the least necessary? And I won't speak for Russell, but I'd be shocked if I filed a Board of Adjustment case and I got a staff report that said this met all the statutory requirements. But it doesn't matter because there's a better mechanism to deal with this, and that's
Did the staff send it here with that precedence? In other words, was it sent here
No, I filed
on your request, or was it sent here by guidance from the staff?
No, Dennis.
Totally mine. Totally mine. But the question you asked in regard to times, that's a perfect example of, with a SPUD, if there are some things that cause you consternation, we can deal with them. Now, I know Commissioner Bright's going to say anything over 8 feet I don't like. We can't deal with that, but that's okay. I mean, that's an issue that can be on the table. We just don't agree with it. Pastor has said he's okay with limiting the time frame.
Dennis, I have 2 further comments, then
Go ahead, John.
Then we'll go to Mike.
Well, I'm just wondering, at the Board of Adjustment, would the discussion be around the things that we're discussing? Graphics, hours of operation, level 1, level 2, et cetera, or would the discussion simply be, we want this 20-foot sign, here's our hours of operation, it causes me a hardship for A, B, C, D, he meets the 4 statutory criteria, and he gets that sign, streaming graphics, whatever, they don't have the power to get into, potentially, I'm just a rhetorical question, to make the fine adjustments that we're able to have the discussions on today. So, Dennis, I'm just as a matter of policy and their duty, is it 1, 2, 3, 4, stamp, thank you.
Two comments. One,
Having served, I just want to be clear as to what they actually might do.
Dennis, number one, we have a sign ordinance. You can get your deal done by meeting the sign ordinance. That's already out there. Secondly, with respect to SPUDs versus PUDs and so forth, I mean, the notion of SPUDs was to try and make the PUD process simpler for smaller types of projects, not in anyone's view when we were crafting that to be able to just take out a little slice of something, a few square feet and say, okay, well, we want to just do a SPUD for 100 square feet so we can put something up in the air. I think that's kind of exaggerating what the SPUD process is designed to accomplish for applicants. I'm prepared to let us go forward and vote on this or take action, whatever people want to do. It's not something I will support. I don't think it belongs here.
Well, could I weigh in and start that process?
Sure.
Is that we do have a policy among this commission that we would like to have 8-foot monument signs. The pole signs issue is gone. The 20-foot sign with flashing lights, whatever the hours are, level 2, is impermissible under the ordinances that we have in near a residential neighborhood. So if your client doesn't agree to an 8-foot monument sign with a level 1 EMD display, I move to deny this application.
Is that a question?
Yes.
Not agree.
I move to deny the application.
I would make a comment that while we are dealing with a state highway, it's a section line road as well. It functions like a section line road, essentially, and not like a highway. And I don't see any sign clutter in the Oklahoma City segment. You go east into Moore, and you've got some pretty unsavory-looking signs on what is 12th Street to them and 134th Street to us. But in our part of this area and going west, we don't have any 35-foot signs. And I don't think with the size of this building and the nature of it, you need anything like that to identify the church.
Mr. Chairman, from the photographs I see, I don't see any signs that would represent even anything close to what they're saying, even in the photographs that's been presented.
If you
I can
look-
tell. And I don't see a degree of clutter of signs along the thoroughfare that I'm looking at.
Yeah, I'm not sure what clutter has to do with it. We just want one sign. The real question is that the appropriate scale based on the setback and based on our building setback of 180 feet, and our position is it is. Now, if you'll keep driving to the west, you'll see a number of signs that are 20 feet and taller. So, but clutter's not an issue, and we're not wanting more than this sign.
Yeah, I'm speaking to the fact of starting the process of clutter.
How much frontage do you have there?
How much frontage? From curb cut to curb cut, approximately? Yeah.
Does our
We've
applicant...
got 10 acres, so 400 feet.
Thank you. I second the motion. Deny this application.
Okay, commissioners? Commissioners? Janice? We have a motion and a second to deny the application. Is everyone ready to vote? Cast your votes. Yes is for denial. And it's a tie. Oh, it's 5-5. Oh, no. I'm sorry. 5-4. What am I thinking? I can't do math, Dennis. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, appreciate it.
Item 5 is CE 804, an application by the Independent School District number 89 of Oklahoma County to close a portion of an east-west alley in Block 27 Youngs Englewood Addition, Ward 6.
This is, I think, the last...
You are?
I'm Heather Hendricks. I represent Oklahoma City Public Schools.
Thank you.
900 North Broadway. This is hopefully the last time I'll be before you asking to close an alleyway that's not in use and hasn't been in use in a very long time. This school is part of the Maps for Kids improvements. It's Hawthorne Elementary. They're planning to expand it out, make room for a lot more kindergartens. So we would ask that you approve it, please.
No one has signed up. Second. We have a motion and a second to approve item 5. Cast your votes. And it's
Thank you.
approved. Buck? Thank you. Nick, did you vote? There we are. Unanimous. Thank you.
Item 6 is continued until April the 28th. Item 7 is SN 071. It's an ordinance for public hearing assigning the name Oklahoma City Boulevard to the new Boulevard Street plan for construction in the area of the existing state right-of-way for our Interstate 40.
And again, Commissioners, no one has signed up. Move approval. Second. We have a motion and a second to approve item 7. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
Item 8 is SPUD 604, an application by Roger Thomas to rezone 1808 South Prospect from R1 to SPUD 604 in Ward 7.
Good afternoon, Mr. Commissioner and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Chris Gray with Craft and Toll. I'm representing the applicant. This is a SPUD application that has an underlining zoning district of I-1. It was restricted with the uses of retail sales and light industrial uses. The end user is a vinyl fence fabricator and resale supplier. We have submitted a site plan in concert with staff. We believe meets the intent of the ordinances. We have provided a sketch that shows the open display area that we're proposing where the client intends to display some of his fencing panels, and there are some examples, I believe, in your packet. We agree with the staff recommendations with the one comment with respect to signage. We want to clarify that we would like to limit ourselves to one monument sign, and we don't have the need for the LED Type 1 electronic sign. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Commissioners, no one has signed up.
I do have a question on this. Where's the highway? Is it on this side?
Yes, sir. I-35 is just to the west. We're separated by South Prospect Avenue.
And so you'll have this landscaping all along that front? That's nice.
Yes, sir.
So I'd move approval.
Second. Okay, understanding TE2 is modified to one monument sign, 8 feet, and no LED. Janice, you had a comment?
I just had a question. I'm not entirely clear from the site plan I'm looking at that the site-proof screening will completely block the view of the gravel yard from Prospect. In other words, where it comes in from the property line to the building, that will all be screened and not just the perimeter.
I'm sorry, could you rephrase that? I'm trying to follow.
Across the north,
Yes, ma'am.
I see site-proof screening.
Yes.
I don't see that the little line that comes down from that northern property line to the building.
That would
also
be
says-
site-proof.
That's what I would say. And then across the south also up where the gate is, that will be site-proof?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, we have a motion and a second modifying TE to eliminate LED signs and include one 8-foot monument sign. Cast your votes, and you're approved. Thank you.
Item 9 is C-6270, a revised preliminary plat of Stone Mill Section 4. Good afternoon, Tim Johnson with Johnson & Associates, representing the applicant, and here today is David Yost, who is the applicant. And a few weeks ago, we were before you on this case relative to the zoning. This was originally part of an overall PUD, and as well as a preliminary plat that had much smaller lots in this area. The concept several years ago when we did the PUD was to have a cottage-style 50-foot wide lots in this area, and we changed the zoning recently to allow for us to be more conventional on our lot size. And these lots, as you can see on the preliminary plat, are 95 or 90 to 100. And we're providing a central common area, and I'll show you that in a minute with regard to the sidewalk question, but gated entry, private streets coming off of 122nd Street. Although part of the Stone Mill addition, it's a completely separate piece of land. It will not connect to the existing Stone Mill addition to the west or the south of this property. With regard to the staff's comments on this, we agree with the technical evaluations that have been presented. We have talked to the staff with regard to the sidewalk requirement along 122nd Street, which we understand that that'll be something that we'll deal with at the final plat stage, or if we opt to attempt to not require that sidewalk, we'll have to go to the Board of Adjustment, as I understand. So it would be a shame to tear down the nice trees along that right-of-way to put a sidewalk that goes nowhere in this case. And I know you've heard that a million times, but in this particular case, it would be a real heartache. With regard to TE number 9, the interior sidewalk requirements, because this is a gated community, it is designed, we will be designing the streets and the areas within the development, such as the lots, just like we did in Stone Mill, the original sections. We're going to save every tree we can. We're going to move the street if the tree's in the way. Our attempt is to create that instant canopy that we got in Stone Mill by keeping the curbs as close to the tree trunks as we could and eliminating the number of trees we have to remove. If we have to put interior sidewalks in adjacent to the street, then obviously that takes us further out, remove more trees, opens up and loses that canopy. So what we've proposed to you today and what's up on the screen is the concept plan that we've done for an interior walking trail. It is the developer's goal to have, as you come in that entry off of 122nd Street, the first thing you'll see is a park with a water feature, probably a waterfall or a fountain of some sort, that will appear to drain south and then recirculate. And we intend to put a walking trail around that with access out to the private street on both ends. And we would like to have that considered in lieu of interior sidewalks. So that is our only deviation to the TEs. That would be TE number 9. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Tim, let's talk about your TE3, the variance on the curb radiuses.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Where,
on all four corners.
On all four corners, you're asking for that variance.
That's correct.
And have you, it's a variance from the subregs, I understand that, but how tight are you taking them on?
It is still wide enough to provide ample turning movement for a fire truck.
That was my question.
In fact, it's a much wider radius than you would have in a cul-de-sac.
Okay.
And the normal design condition here would be the two streets come together with a bubble on the end, or an elbow is what we call it. What this allows us to do is to minimize the amount of paving, again, reducing the number of trees we have to take out, and allows those lot frontages to be a more acceptable width along those curves. So that's the request for the variance.
But it's good for a fire truck?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Tim? We have a couple people signed up. Holly Ruskowski. Okay, Judith Woody. If you'll give us your name and address, and then I'd like to ask you a question.
Surely. Judith Woody, 12517 Hoffman Road,
Okay.
Edmond.
Is your concern strictly density, or have you others?
My concern is density.
Well, a couple of things. One, it's already been zoned R1, or at least our recommendation to the City Council from here was to zone it R1. And this application conforms with our subdivision regulations with the exception of the variance request.
I see.
Now, your opportunity, I suppose, if that zoning is a question for you, is when it goes to City Council.
All right.
We're not in a position today to address the density question any longer because we've recommended R1 zoning.
All
It has
right.
not yet been heard by the City Council.
So at City Council, I could,
They make the final decision on something like this. When it comes to zoning, we're a recommending body to the City Council.
I understand that. Well, we were all concerned, or a good number of us, because the area is made up of larger acreages, and while Stone Mill is lovely, and the trees are definitely there, we just felt like the secondary, or stage 4, was too many houses and too little space to accommodate the traffic problems we already have on 122nd Street, which is just 2 lanes. So perhaps all that does need to be directed to someone else?
At the City Council, and you're in Ward 7, so that's Skip Kelly,
Yes.
Councilman Kelly.
Well, thank you very much for your...
Thank you. I do not know when it's set. March 29th, is that what you said? Oh, okay. I could read that if I'd look more closely. March 29th. April 5th?
April 5th.
5th. Okay, any other questions of Mr. Johnson? Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, if there's no question, I'd like to move the variance on T number 3.
Okay. Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the variance on T3. Cast your votes, and the variance is approved.
Then I'd like to move the application approval with the deletion, of the interior sidewalks for the pedestrian plan.
To allow for the pedestrian
Yeah, we can just amend TE 9 to add an alternate for a pedestrian walkway.
Change TE 9 to adopt the plan he's given us here.
Yes, we'll change T number 9 to adopt the pedestrian plan that was submitted.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve item 9 as conditioned. Cast your votes, and it's approved.
Item 10 is C-6276, which is the final plat of Kelly Lake Office Park 2 in Ward 7.
Good afternoon, Barry Lodge with Red Rock Engineering representing the applicant. We have reviewed the TEs in the staff report, had some discussions with the zoning staff concerning these. Have no disagreement with the TEs. On TE number 5, there was an option given of either submitting the PUD for approval or revising our lot lines to achieve the required building setback. Speaking with the developer, we will, it's agreeable, we'll change the lot lines and extend those out so that we can satisfy the requirement for those required building setbacks.
So that'll be a common area then?
It would be a common area or easement is probably how we would handle that, but since it would be within the limits of the actual lots, we would have an easement in there that would be designated as a common parking access easement.
Okay. No one has signed up, Commissioners, and we have variance requests to TEs 3 and 4. Nick?
In regard to those variances, Barry, just to clarify, the variance for water and the variance for sewer, you're going to have water and sewer. It's just going to be through a common deal for your development.
Yes.
Hooking in.
Yes, sir. We've got water that does go through the center, and there's a sewer line that goes across the property, but we'll just have service lines that will cross the common parking area to tie into the sewer line.
Thank you.
Anything else, Commissioners? Action on variance number to TE3?
I move variance T number 3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the variance TE3. Cast your votes. That's approved.
Move approval for the variance on T number 4.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the variance TE4. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
And I move the application with the modification that was presented to us concerning the lot arrangements on TE number 5. Move approval of it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 10. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
Item 11 is ABC 735, an application by KLS Food and Beverages Company for an ABC 2 at 13520 Northeastern Avenue, Suite B and C in Ward 7.
I'm Darian Anderson. I represent KLS Food and Beverages Company, and I am accompanied by the owner of that company, Cam Somrasby, and also by the landlord, Lavi Henderson. So if there are any questions, my understanding is that we have submitted the documents that have been requested. There have been no objections, so we're prepared to answer any questions if there are any.
No one has signed up, Commissioners. Second. The motion is second to approve item 11. Cast your votes, and you're approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 12 is an ordinance for public hearing relating to the protest calculation for rezoning applications, amending Chapter 59 of the Municipal Code. This just gets us to conform with statutes again, Commissioners. Second. We have a motion and a second to approve item 12. Cast your votes, and that's approved. And that's it for public hearing items. Planning Commission committees. Planning Commission members.
Mr. Chairman, we had a case today that bothered me, and it was the sign, and whether that's the Board of Adjustment case or a Planning Commission case. And I don't kind of agree with you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's probably more of a Board of Adjustment case than a Planning case. That said, if it is a Planning Commission case, the horse just left the barn, and I think we need some guidance. We have staff direct applicants away from this so we don't have every sign case in the world coming in an SPUD. I can remember a case when I was on the Board of Adjustment where some people wanted a billboard, and they literally rezoned one little, or tried to rezone one little tract of land, just on, not all their land, just one spot for the billboard, which didn't work out very well, and they ended up back at the Board of Adjustment. I don't know if that's for legal to set some criteria for the staff to advise applicants of end runs, or if the staff can just work with the applicants and tell them, no, we don't want these end runs, but I can just see it coming after today.
Or do we need better clarification of what responsibilities lie where? I mean, because...
Well, but Mr. Box made some compelling arguments.
Yeah.
Not every, but many SPUDs and PUDs that come before us, what do they have in them? Variances. What's the Board of Adjustment do? It grants variances. We also grant variances. I understand that. But I can see an abuse coming. And where is that line? And defining that line, I believe we should take some proactive movement right now to define that line and say, when can you and when can you not come before the Planning Commission on an item, and when you should and should not go to the Board of Adjustment.
Let me make a comment. This is considered under the law forum shopping. That's really, and so my question is, if this application came before the Board of Adjustment and the Board of Adjustment denied it, is there an appeal to what?
District Court.
Straight to District Court. It doesn't go through council. The strategy of this denial was, I'm going to go straight to council and I think I can win there. That's why this is an important issue to me, is not to circumvent what should be a Board of Adjustment issue, let it go to where it belongs, and not to come to our horseshoe, so that somebody can say, I can win at council if it comes before the Planning Commission. That's the strategy that we looked at today.
That's exactly
And I really
what you
think
were
it's an important
saying in so many words.
Susan and Dan, can you weigh in on this? Do you want to weigh in on it now or give us some guidance later?
Yeah, we can look at that, but I don't know that there's anything we can do about that because, I mean, that is, unless you rewrite your ordinances some way and not allow any kind of a SPUD for a certain
Well, and
acreage or
that's
something.
partially my question. Do I, as an applicant, by right, can I bring anything I want in the way of a spud here, and do I have a right to do that? And, I pretty much thought you did.
I think so, but we'll see what Dan...
They have a right to bring whatever they want in. Okay, but then the next question is, do we have the right to not hear it and send them packing and say this is a Board of Adjustment? And I don't think we have that right either. No, you have to hear the case. You could always deny it, but... Well, but in Bob's scenario, that gets them off of the table here and right back up here to the council, and if it's not the proper venue, where is the hook in either the statutes or our regs to get it in the right venue?
That's up to the council, and if they wanted to provide that I'm not sure you can even you could do that unless there was a restriction on what you could put in the spud. Then they could perhaps get a variance. But as long as the ordinances are the way now, they can apply for a spud, and the ultimate decision on that's going to be up to council. It's a rezoning. It's not a Board of Adjustment issue. Well, but then again, the council has the final authority. I mean, so it's not really circumventing the board. If the council wants to hear those, then they can hear them.
No, I understand, and
I'm going to hand you out something that Mr. Brummett wants to discuss.
It's just if this is right.
He finally won a case.
Hey.
That is harsh.
She hasn't, so let's...
I wait till Monday.
This is a case, Copperleaf plat in Nichols Hill Suburban Tracts. There were 6 lots that they purchased, and they were proposing to subdivide them into 10 lots. The policies of the OKC plan on traditional neighborhoods calls for the maintenance of existing lot sizes and orientation of the street. The commission denied the plat because it was proposing a density of about twice what the average density was in the Nichols Hill Suburban Tracts edition. The property owner appealed to the district court. The district court, Judge Gurich, provided that or held that the Planning Commission could not rely on the policies and intent in the comprehensive plan in considering whether to approve or deny a plat. She said, basically, as long as it complied with the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations, you didn't have any discretion. The Court of Appeals, Division 4, held that the plan is part of an integrated land use system, and the provisions and the intent and the policies in the comprehensive plan have to be read in conjunction with the subdivision regulations and the zoning ordinance whenever possible. In this case, there was not a conflict, and that the Planning Commission's reliance on the comprehensive plan was well-founded, and therefore your decision could not be arbitrary, unreasonable, or capricious, and that's the standard that is for judicial review of the Planning Commission's item. This is I think this is a very important case because we haven't had a case in Oklahoma that really speaks to the purpose of the plan and the effect of the plan in terms of zoning and subdivision approval. Right now, it's not set for publication. I've talked to Mr. Groves, who represented the neighborhood, and I think we're going to try to request it get published so it's a court case of record that we can rely on in the future. But it's a major win for the Planning Commission and for the plan itself. It gives a lot more legal weight to the plan.
Not to mention the municipal councilor's offices. You did a great job. This is really, really applaud this.
it's a big attaboy.
This is a good one. This is a real good one.
Mr. Groves and I had a lot of fun.
Well done, and thank you for doing it and carrying it to that level. Excellent. I guess that's the municipal counselor's office report, isn't it, Susan? Planning Department?
Can't follow that.
You can't top it,
Well,
but you can
yeah.
follow it.
Just follow it. Nothing this month.
Okay. Development Services, JJ? Citizens to be heard? Motion to adjourn? We're done.